Chapter 5a/n, a little late, but not too much. This chapter is kind of just here for plot consistency, and I don't like it too much, but the next chapter will be out much sooner than usual. Look forward to it. As always, special thanks to my beta, Ikusakaliba, who makes this sufferable. Apparently that's not a word, but insufferable is. That's stupid. Anyway, his writing is absolutely fantastic. Check it out. All of it. Uzumaki Chapter 5. The morning was cold, and Satsuki felt on the verge of vomiting. They all arrived at the training grounds simultaneously, sans Kakashi. Good morning, Satsuki-san, Sakura said, bags under her eyes. Her smile resembled the forced grin of a corpse, but Satsuki nodded at her anyway. Ugh, Naruto said, groaning and sitting down against his bag. If Kakashi is late again today. Satsuki hoped he wouldn't be. He was. 3 hours later, Kakashi arrived with an entirely disinterested expression. He waved cheerfully. Yo. Satsuki supposed she'd be cheerful if she'd had 3 hours more sleep, too. You're late. Naruto and Sakura shouted in unison, identical expressions of rage on their faces. Kakashi shrugged, smiling, and putting his hands up as though to admit defeat. I had to run around the village 15 times to defeat a green beast. Liar. Kakashi dangled 2 bells in front of them, and they jingled. These, he said, are your ticket to being a shinobi. He tied them to his belt. Take them from me, and you get to become a ninja. Don't? And you get sent back to the academy. And you get to be tied to a log while I eat food. Kakashi smiled. I hope you ate breakfast. Naruto stomped his feet, furious. But you told us not to eat any. Satsuki felt awfully stupid for having listened. Her hand wandered subconsciously to her stomach. Well, maybe you 3 cute genin ought to think for yourselves, Kakashi said. He reached for the timer, winding a knob at the back and pressing down on the top. You have until noon. Fight me like you intend to kill me, or you'll do no damage at all, I assure you. But, sensei, Sakura said, looking nervous. What if we hurt you? Kakashi just laughed at her, and Satsuki saw Naruto tense and run forward like a hare. As if I'm gonna lose out on being a ninja now. And with a roar, Naruto lunged forward, kunao clutched in one hand, and with a blink, Kakashi had that very same kunao pointed at the back of Naruto's very own neck. He smiled. I haven't even said go yet. Satsuki felt herself go cold. But you two would do well to take from Naruto's example. Come at me with the intent to kill. Now. Kakashi released Naruto's hand from his grip, and walked into the center of the clearing. Go. Within a millisecond, Sakura and Satsuki had hidden within the trees, but Kakashi looked entirely unconcerned. Naruto was bemused. Aren't you? I dunno, gonna chase after them. The man shrugged, and reached into his pouch. Naruto steadied himself, eyeing his bag carefully as he rooted through it. Kunao, shuriken, or something else. I don't know what to expect from this guy. With a sleek motion, Kakashi pulled out a small orange book. Naruto blinked. Wait. What? You're reading? Kakashi didn't look up. Why are you reading? He still didn't look up, but turned a page. To find out what happens, of course. Naruto clenched his fists. Is this guy taking me that lightly? He thought, but he grinned, and formed a hand sign. From the branches, Satsuki frowned. What is Naruto doing? Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The clearing became filled with Narutos, and Satsuki blinked. I suppose, if they're just illusions. Kage Bunshin, Kakashi mused, and his tone sounded a tad surprised. And so many. How reckless, but I'm impressed. Solid clones. With a simultaneous war cry, the Narutos drove forward, and at that moment Satsuki finally understood there was no way she could win against this man. Naruto was not as graceful or strategic as Satsuki, though he was more powerful, but strategy and grace weren't necessary when there were 50 of you. Kakashi, with one arm occupied and his eyes glued firmly to the book, span and kicked and blocked and wiped out each and every ninja that Naruto had to offer, and with a final punch to the gut he sent the original Naruto flying. This guy, even without looking, can do that? We've got no chance. Sakura thought, eyes wide. After a moment of looking at Naruto, leaning against the tree to her right, Satsuki closed her eyes. This plan was the stupidest she'd had yet. He must be having an influence on me, she thought tiredly. Naruto, she whispered. His head jerked up to see her in the branches. What? he said loudly, and Satsuki resisted the urge to put her head in her hands. Idiot. She cringed, but flicked her head in order to motion Naruto up into the trees. Thankfully, the boy seemed to get it, but Satsuki didn't stick around to find out. Kakashi probably knows where I am now. I've gotta move fast. She stopped on a distant branch, and turned to Naruto. There's no way we're going to beat him, she said in a low voice. We've got to team up. Are you kidding? There's only 2 bells. If we team up, it won't be fair on Sakura-chan. Now, that was true. Satsuki bit her lip, but her expression was unmoved. This whole thing isn't fair. He's a jounin, and we'll only win together. You can't just leave her out. Naruto pouted and folded his arms. Then she can team up with us too. There are only 2 bells, bastard. Naruto emphasized this point by holding up 2 fingers. Then we'll pick at the end who gets them, Satsuki said, gritting her teeth. Naruto looked torn. We'll just end up arguing. It won't be fair. Someone who tried hard might not get one. It's better than no one getting a bell. I can hear you too, you know. Naruto fell out of the tree, and Satsuki bent over backwards to avoid the swipe of Kakashi's arm. She propelled herself off a branch with a push of her arms, and landed in the clearing beside Naruto. You find Sakura, and I'll try to hold him off for a while. Satsuki left no room for argument, and she was grateful when Naruto gave her a nod before jumping into the trees. Thank God, he can at least listen to instructions. Sakura-chan? Where are you hiding? Satsuki almost choked on her own saliva. Kakashi approached Satsuki with a nonchalant expression. You know teaming up is against the rules, he said after a long pause. You never said so. Kakashi shrugged. I suppose you're right. He snapped his book shut, and tucked it into his pouch. But I'm eager to see the Uchiha's famous gliding edge taijutsu style. Don't let me down. How did he? As eager as she was to fight someone worthy fighting, Satsuki was beginning to have her doubts. If he already knew of her gliding edge style. I've seen it myself, Kakashi said. But to fight it must be quite a different experience. And as the last female Uchiha, you must be the last person in the world who knows it. Last female Uchiha, she thought. Last Uchiha altogether, except for Itachi. Satsuki didn't say anything, expression darkening as she settled into the first stance of the gliding edge with a scowl. Kakashi didn't even come towards her. She kept her eyes firmly on him. This isn't designed for offense, but, if he won't come to me. With a graceful spin of her body, she launched a barrage of shuriken at Kakashi. The man jumped easily over them, and Satsuki quickly launched another, jumping backwards and bouncing off of her hands onto a branch. She glared, and threw herself through the air with her arms at her sides. Kakashi's eyes widened at the direct attack, but he caught her by her shoulders. Ha! Satsuki smirked. She hooked her leg around the back of his neck, and clamped around his throat tightly, bending over backwards to touch the bells. Kakashi pushed his fingers into a pressure point at the back of Satsuki's thigh, and threw her off of him. She skidded through the dust, narrowing her eyes. He didn't look the slightest bit fazed. Satsuki stood straight and bent her back. She poised one leg slightly outwards on the ground, and with every ounce of grace she had in her body, she began to spin. After a few moments, the clearing was filled with a thick coat of dust. Naruto, you'd better know what you're doing. Over here. Kakashi was very suddenly barraged with a mass of Narutos, dogpiling him until it became apparent that they were hugging a log. Even working together, you 3 really aren't cutting it, Kakashi said, reaching for his book. Katon, Gukaku no Jutsu. And out of the dust, came an immense fireball. Naruto blinked, and jumped back into the trees, and Kakashi jumped to the side of the fireball, the edge of the flame skimming his pants. He made some sort of affirmative noise at the assault, but looked around for a moment. Whereas Seikudash he very suddenly became aware of the smell of burning paper, and the floor beneath him exploded. Naruto cheered loudly, until the chunks of burnt wood hit the floor, and Sakura, Satsuki, and Naruto found themselves being tightly bound together by a length of ninja wire. Wadash! They hit each other with a monstrous amount of force, and collapsed to the ground. Kakashi walked over, dusting off his pants. You 3 are pathetic, he said, and his tone was so cold that Satsuki could feel Naruto stiffen against her back. That fireball set off the exploding tags in the ground. I'd be impressed, but you haven't even managed to land a scratch on me. He knelt down in front of them. I won't send you back to the academy. You three. For a split second, the three relaxed, should give up on being ninja. Naruto's outcry came first. What? You three lack any talent whatsoever, Kakashi said, voice cold. Sakura took no part in whatever plan you executed, and you three were completely uncoordinated. Satsuki was the only one who showed any potential, but even she met her downfall by not asking Sakura for help. Kakashi looked at them, and spoke with a harsh tone. You are assigned as a three-man cell for a reason. This exercise was about teamwork from the beginning. Teamwork, Sakura said. But you only have 2 bells. Kakashi turned his gaze to her. With the intention of splitting you 3 up. If any of you had bothered to put the team first, you'd have succeeded. Sakura's jaw closed. But Kakashi-sensei, you don't get it. Naruto said angrily. Sakura-chan came up with that plan, and she implanted those exploding tags in the ground when Satsuki created that dust cloud. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Even a tactician needs basic fighting skills, and Sakura has none. After some awkward movements, Sakura found herself tied against the post. Their teacher walked towards the strange, carved gem in the middle of the training grounds. Written on this stone are the names of heroes. Kakashi had his hands in his pockets. Naruto grinned and nodded. Heroes? Now that's cool. What kinda heroes, Kakashi-sensei? Dead ones. Naruto quieted. The 3 of them shied away from looking at Kakashi's back, uncomfortable weights settling in their stomachs. On this stone are the names of my closest friends, he said, reaching a finger out to trace the engravings. There was a long silence, and for a moment, Satsuki felt a twinge of pity for the man. He turned around. I've decided to give you 3 one last chance, Kakashi said. In the afternoon, you will have 3 hours to get the bells from me. But first, Naruto and Satsuki eat lunch. Sakura doesn't get any. Feed her, and face disqualification. Sakura's face dropped. Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves, and Naruto looked left, right, and behind before holding his lunchbox out to Sakura. She blinked, before panicking. Naruto, you can't do that? Kakashi-sensei said we couldn't. So what? Satsuki intercepted. He's not around. If you don't eat something, you won't be any good. Bulletin-Dashkman, Naruto said. We've gotta be quick or he'll get back here. Sakura pushed down a smile. Even Satsuki is helping me. My hands are kinda. I'll feed you, Sakura-chan. Nah, no way. Satsuki ended up feeding her. There was a bang and a swirl of smoke. You guys dash. The 3 of them reeled back. Pass. Chapter 6. I'm sick of these stupid D-rank missions. I want a C-rank. Iruka sighed. Naruto dash. The week had been filled with an array of mediocre missions, and Satsuki's ears rang from Naruto's complaints. She was beginning to worry about the effects on her hearing. No more getting the daimyo's wife's cat? I don't wanna. Naruto dash. Iruka said, expression irritated. Well, the Hokage said. Okay. Team 7 blinked. We just received a C rank, actually. What, like protecting a beautiful princess? Or dash. The Hokage coughed. Tajuna-san. A short man with a straw hat peered through the door, face red with drink. He's a bridge builder from the land of waves, the Hokage said. You're required to take him back, and protect him from bandits and the like. What, so I'm being taken by a couple of princesses and a midget? The bridge builder hiccuped, sake in hand with a strange look at the Hokage. Can these kids really protect me? Naruto began howling incoherently at the man, Kakashi holding him by his head. Are these ninja insufficient, Tajuna-san? The Hokage asked, and it wasn't more a question than a challenge. Tajuna gulped. In any case, Kakashi said, I am coming as well. So don't worry. Tajuna grumbled, tipping his hat. The day was blisteringly hot, and Naruto's attitude was as exhausting as ever. For some reason, every single bush was immensely interesting to him. Satsuki felt uneasy. Very, very uneasy. She couldn't really pinpoint why, either. The fear was stupid and childish, and she crushed it. Satsuki-san. She jumped. Satsuki-san. Sakura said, hands behind her back. Have you ever left Konoha before? Satsuki paused, and nodded. Oh, Sakura said, laughing awkwardly. I haven't, but it's not that different here. Just lots of trees, I guess. Satsuki was quiet, hands tucked in her pockets. I was young, she said. I can't remember it. Oh. They walked in silence, the air heavy. I just wanted to say, thank you, Sakura blurted out. Satsuki raised an eyebrow, and the other girl giggled. Well, Sakura began. I wouldn't have passed the test if you hadn't had the idea to work together, so I kinda owe it to you. Naruto was the one who made us all work together, Satsuki said. I wouldn't have asked you, otherwise. Sakura blinked, and her jaw opened and closed like a fish. After a moment, she blushed and looked at her feet. I guess that figures, Sakura said, shuffling her bag awkwardly on her shoulders. He probably wanted to ask me on a date, or something. It was nice of him. Sakura looked up, confused. Satsuki didn't look at her. Naruto refused the opportunity to get a bell so you could have a chance at getting one. The road looked so long to her, all she could see was the very, very distant curve of the path ahead. Ugh, Sakura said, and Satsuki twitched. I mean, it's nice and all, but I just wish Naruto would take a hint. Satsuki finally looked Sakura in the eyes, and said, I wish you would, too. And Sakura was left staring at Satsuki's back with a gobsmacked expression on her face. Kakashi-sensei dash. Sakura froze, and so did Naruto, eyes widening at the two black figures, and in the very same moment, Satsuki lunged. The two encircled them, running forward with enraged expressions, and Satsuki jumped, graceful and precise as she kicked them simultaneously. With a flick of her wrist, she nailed the chains between them to the tree. But what about Kakashi-sensei? Satsuki could have rolled her eyes. But you dash Naruto stuttered, jaw slack, until he turned to see Kakashi's bloody remains, only to find chunks of wood scattered across the clearing. Kakashi shrugged. I was testing how you would react in a dangerous situation. These two men were the demon brothers, high-level ninja. Tajuna stiffened beside Sakura. Their teacher turned a stern eye to the tipsy man, and he shaded his eyes with his hat. Tajuna-san, Kakashi said, why would high-level ninja be after you? You reported this mission as a C rank. Nothing but bandits at most. Tajuna took a shaky breath. Our country is small. We have no shinobi force. And the ocean trade, our only trade, as an island, is being monopolized by a fearful man. His voice lowered, and his shoulders hunched. Gato. Kakashi blinked. Gato? Kakashi-sensei, who's Gato? Naruto said. A big-name businessman. And you're saying he's sucking the money out of your country? Tajuna nodded. I couldn't afford anything more than C rank. But I am building the bridge that will end Gata's reign of tyranny. He fears it. I am bound to be assassinated if you leave now. Naruto struggled to keep his shaking under control. Those two ninja, I couldn't even move, but Satsuki just took them out all on her own. He looked at her. Her expression was casual, and she caught his gaze, smirking. Hurt, scaredy cat. Naruto gritted his teeth, glaring angrily at her, before Kakashi caught his attention. Naruto, your cut will have to be treated in the village. Those blades they used were dipped in poison, he said. We will have to turn back either way. The boy looked at his team, and gritted his teeth. So, is that it? I'm holding everyone back? Like hell. Naruto plunged a kunai into his hand. I swear by this cut on my hand, he said, that I won't hold anyone back, and that I won't give up. And I never go back on my word. Satsuki suppressed a smile. Good idea, but now you're probably going to bleed to death. Really? Naruto howled, clutching his hand. Satsuki twitched. Nope. He's definitely still an idiot. The journey continued uneventfully but anxiously all at once. Kakashi seemed slightly on edge, as did Sakura and Tajuna. But Naruto, predictably, had taken Satsuki's victory as an insult to him, and was now making it his duty to protect them. Or to seem cool. As Naruto glared at Satsuki and attacked small rabbits, she was beginning to think the latter was the case. Get down. A massive blade swung above their heads and embedded itself in a tree within an instant, and Satsuki's blood ran cold as the man stood on its hilt met her gaze. We're going to be climbing trees. Kakashi-sensei, I know how to climb a tree. Kakashi put on a false perplexed expression. But can you do it without using your hands? Kakashi hauled himself up the tree, crutches and all, and Naruto fist-pumped ecstatically, bouncing on the heels on his feet. Yes, something I can finally do. And with a fair degree of astonishment, Satsuki watched as Naruto ran up the tree, hands on his hips as he grinned down at her. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Well done, Naruto. Where did he learn something like that? Their teacher looked down at them, walking down the tree. As you can see, Naruto already understands this exercise. By infusing chakra into your feet, you stick your feet to the tree. Satsuki lifted her foot to the tree, and found herself hopping to regain balance as she was repelled from the bark. Too much, and you're thrown away from the bark. Too little, and you won't stick. It may take you a while to get the hang of it, Sensei. As Sakura waved from her perch upon a branch, Satsuki finally felt the crushingly embarrassing feeling of being the dead last. The sun beat down on Satsuki like her mother's stern voice had when she was young, and she awoke groggily. Are you all right? She jerked away, blinking at the strange girl who had such a soft expression. Worry knotted itself on the girl's eyebrows, and she asked Satsuki again. Miss, are you all right? Satsuki blinked, forcing her vision to focus, before nodding dumbly. The girl smiled. I'm glad. But why would you sleep in a place like this? Satsuki yawned, looking around at the trees and the warm grass beneath her. I fell asleep after all that training. She sat up, rolling the kinks out of her shoulders and neck. I was training. The girl smiled. Are you a shinobi? Satsuki nodded, taking note of her kimono, and of the woven basket beside her. The girl noticed her wandering gaze, and smiled. I was here to collect herbs. A loved one is sick, these herbs relieve fever. Why are you training, then? The Uchiha thinned her lips. The sun was blinding. To get stronger. The girl beside him nodded. But for what purpose do you become stronger? Her head tilted. Is there anyone who is precious to you? Satsuki blinked, turning to the girl sat beside her. Precious. The girl turned, hair brushing the edges of her face. Someone to protect. Satsuki scoffed, and the other girl's face changed a little. Do you not have anyone like that, then? I don't want anyone like that, Satsuki said, speaking as though the words stung her lips. Now, the girl wasn't saying anything at all, and Satsuki found herself speaking instead. My only purpose is to avenge the deaths of my family. Nothing else. For a moment, it seemed as though Satsuki's coldness had silenced the girl, until she sighed and looked at Satsuki with eyes that stirred emotion in her. It was almost as though she understood. How sad. Sad. Like you'd know, Satsuki spat. The girl turned her sad gaze, away from Satsuki. I suppose not. But death is always sad. The girl's eyes closed. I'm sorry for your loss. Satsuki couldn't bear to look at her. It was a long time ago, she said. The girl said nothing, staring at her knees, until she broke the silence. I lost my family. At a young age, she said. I was lost for a long time. I had no purpose, a street urchin, simply trying to eat and drink. I found someone. I began to love someone. We are strongest when we protect those precious to us. Do you truly have no one? They would just be a liability, Satsuki said, anger bubbling in her voice like an unattended stove. Why? Because I have an ambition, and I can't let anyone get in my way. I have to kill my brother, no matter what. Satsuki resisted the urge to attack the girl. She was seething. The girl closed her eyes. That isn't true. With others, you are truly strong. He told me to hate him, to attain power to kill him, and I will. Others will just hold me back. If he had done such an evil to you, why would you still listen to him? Satsuki couldn't help but admire the softness of the girl's voice, even as she spewed atrocities. Do you still value what he has to say, as a brother? Is it perhaps that you maybe still love him? Despite his crimes, the girl asked, and her face was the picture of innocence, but all Satsuki could see was red. She held back her fists. I will kill Itaki. You, Satsuki said, the words, tasting of poison, could never understand. She stood up, unsteady on her feet, and turned to leave the wood. Oi, Satsuki. Naruto's orange tinge lit up the trees like a wildfire. Who's the pretty girl you were talking to? And where've you been all night? Training. Oh Deshin sir, the girl called after them, I'm a boy. What? That's it, if Naruto attacks from the outside. Satsuki. Satsuki twitched, and Naruto grinned. I came in here to save you. After a moment's searching, Satsuki could find no words. Fucking idiot. You. Satsuki said, mouth opening and closing. You're such an idiot. Why didn't you stay outside? Hey, I was just trying to help. Naruto huffed, and Satsuki took a deep breath. I can't kill him. I can't kill him. Satsuki directed her attention to the glinting ice mirrors about them. I've gotta take care of this guy first. You two will die here. The glow of the mirrors blinded Satsuki, and she was riddled with senbon and thrown to the ground beside Naruto. Every movement burned, and Satsuki's body gave out beneath her weight. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Stop it dash! Satsuki cried. The clones leapt, and in the same instant, disappeared. Naruto flew back with an agonized cry, and Satsuki winced. There's no way we can keep this up, she thought, looking at the icy reflections of Haku. Ugh, you think you're so great. Naruto groaned, sitting up, senbon pointing out of his shoulder. I won't lose here. I have a dream. To become Hokage and be acknowledged by my village, and I won't die before I see it. Satsuki watched Naruto stand up with a strange sort of awe. I too have a dream, said the masked reflection. I must make my precious one's dream come true. For that, I will become a shinobi, and kill off my emotions. Like you, I will die before my dream fails. I won't lose to you. Naruto yelled. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Stop. In seconds, Naruto was thrown back. Down again, bloodier than ever this time, but Satsuki had seen, for a split second, that movement. Naruto did it again, and Satsuki found it once more, a trail, the lithe form of Haku, moving from mirror to mirror at such a speed even if I can see it. That's no help now. Naruto, she breathed, her voice strained. Can you do that once more? Of course I can, bastard, Naruto said, smirking, but Satsuki saw how his posture faltered, his labored breathing. He's too much of an idiot to admit it, but he won't last much longer. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. And Satsuki swept her foot through the water, kicking it into the air, and there it is. The water was repelled by Haku's movement, bouncing with every movement. If I time it right, Satsuki saw her enter a mirror, and lifted her fingers to her mouth. Katon, Gukaku no Jutsu. Haku veered closely out of the way of the fireball, the edges of his clothes singed. The barrage of attacks stopped, and Naruto slumped to the floor. Shit, Satsuki said, turning to the boy. He was crumpled on the floor. Naruto, get up. Just a sec, asshole. Haku narrowed his eyes. I have to take this opportunity. That girl is tracking my movements. I can't afford to let this battle continue. It must end here. He launched a barrage of senbon at Satsuki. Carefully aimed. Satsuki picked up a senbon from beneath her, and carefully, awkwardly, and just barely deflected all of them. Her breathing was heavy. Naruto, get up. I can't cover for you any longer, she yelled. Naruto looked at her, but his gaze was hazy and unfocused. I will, bastard. Naruto whispered, but in the same moment, he collapsed backwards. Satsuki's heart sank. Your friend won't be getting back up, Haku said. This fight is over for you. She can't read my movements, surely. The human eye is not fast enough, this blow will be the last. Satsuki picked Naruto up, and jumped out of the way. How is she? Haku thought. But is that? And in both of Satsuki's eyes, lay Sharingan. Satsuki smirked. Even with those eyes, Haku said, how much longer can you manage like this? You're tiring quickly. Satsuki glared, but her muscles were screaming. It's true. I can't keep this up. Like hell. Satsuki turned to see Naruto rising like a corpse from the dead. His grin was wide, but stained with blood. Come on, Satsuki, Naruto said, and Satsuki could see how every limb quivered, how even his smile trembled with that pain. We've gotta take this guy out. Haku's eyes narrowed, and he was ruthless with every barrage. Naruto was inadequate, even standing, the girl pulling him out the way, pushing him, even picking him up when need be. He was not a partner, but a liability. And now, Haku could see she was tiring. Satsuki collapsed to one knee. Satsuki dash. Naruto, she breathed. Naruto, I'm. She fell to her side, eyes shut. This is the end, Haku whispered, tone quiet and sad as it echoed through the domes. The senbon came, and Naruto saw no, not Satsuki. With a grunt of pain, Satsuki hauled herself up. Every movement pushed a senbon further into her, the wounds leaking with blood. Her vision was failing her, and her chakra was near gone, but after waiting a few dazed moments, her shaky double vision cleared. She saw the injured, damaged body of Haku lying on the icy ground. You did it, she breathed, eyes wide with disbelief and shock but pure elation. narrow the wet, half-gag half-cough noise reverberated off every mirror, the splash of blood thick and gruesome on the ground. Naruto's legs were shaking, but he turned back to Satsuki with a pained and slow movement. His smile stole away Satsuki's breath. You look stupid. She whispered. So many senbon protruded from his neck. Too many. You protected me. Satsuki hated the color orange more than anything. She could see it in every mirror. Ha! His voice was hoarse and sore with pain, but she could hear the laughter in it. You're awake? Good. She was choking on every breath. Air stopped coming altogether. He looked away from her. He's not dead yet. You have to get up, bastard. Stop being a wimp. His breathing was so heavy. I never asked you, she said. There was so much blood beneath Naruto. I never asked you to do this. Why didn't you just stay the hell out of this? I hate you. All she could hear was her heartbeat, now, banging in the midst of mirrors and mist. Naruto remembered the time when Satsuki lashed out at a cashier. You know, it wasn't that important. Shut up. Why'd you yell at that lady if you didn't even want any? You just don't get it. Naruto said, shaking on his feet. I don't care whether you asked. Naruto crumpled, and Satsuki found herself grabbing him by those senbon-ridden arms with her senbon-ridden own, and they were both so hurt. But why did he look like he was going to? She held him tighter. His eyes were too blue, on a bridge filled with black ninja and red blood and white fog, but never blue. Hokage, he said. I always wanted to be Hokage. But I guess it isn't so important now, huh? Satsuki had never seen him smile like that. It was a quiet smile. I thought. He coughed. I thought that was the most important thing to me, but don't say things like that. Satsuki tried to speak, but all that came out was air that fell away like water and blood. Blood gurgled from his throat like a spluttering fountain. A splatter of blood stained Satsuki's cheek. Promise me. Naruto choked out. Promise me you won't lose to this loser, and that you won't die. Naruto's hand was reaching upwards. I promise, she whispered. Promise me, too. Satsuki's voice was choked. Promise me you won't die. Naruto exhaled, smiling a bloody grin. I promise. And Uzumaki Naruto never goes back on his word. Satsuki nodded, her breath hitching as his eyes shut and his body relaxed in her arms. His smile slipped away from his lips as he died. Naruto. She settled her head in the nook of his neck, breathing in shakily. He still smells of fucking ramen and soil. She couldn't look at his face anymore. Her eyes stung. How could this? Naruto, Satsuki whispered, her vision clouding. Naruto, you liar. She laid Naruto's body gently on the ground. Satsuki tried her hardest not to look at that unsmiling face. Haku stood up. He ran into a trap for someone he cared about, the boy said. He was a true shinobi. He gave up his life for a friend. His death is a noble one. Naruto had a future, Satsuki said, kneeling and looking upwards, searching for a glimpse of the blue sky. Satsuki gritted her teeth. Naruto had dreams. You took everything from him? He wasn't just a shinobi, and he wasn't noble, he was Uzumaki Naruto. I'm sorry, Haku said. For the sake of my dream, one of us must die here. Your friend made a noble sacrifice for you. If you die here, will you be able to face him in the afterlife? Don't talk about him, Satsuki said, like you have the right. It stank of blood. Don't talk about Naruto. Don't you dare. She brought her gaze to the slits of the mask. You aren't going where Naruto's going, Satsuki said, and her mouth formed into a twisted smile. She walked. Haku said nothing at all, taking up a twisted stance with a handful of senbon. He moved, but I promise you this. He ran forward, closer. You will die today. And 3 tomo swirled in each eye. Chapter 7. Those eyes, she's not the same as she was earlier. I can't take any more risks. Haku held the senbon to eye level, watching Satsuki carefully. The girl smirked. With these eyes, she said, I can see your every movement. It's only a matter of time, now. The malice in each word sent a shiver up Haku's spine. He switched from mirror to mirror, firing quickly, but she dodged faster. No, that wasn't it. She wasn't any faster. She was more efficient. Every move Satsuki made was quicker, each route she made ideal, conserving her energy with every duck and jump and dodge. Each single barrage of senbon Haku sent was evaded, and perfectly so. My chakra. I'm too close to running out. He stopped, eyeing her carefully through the mask. She smirked, breathing heavily. Don't you see, she said, smirking. Revenge has brought me this beautiful, delicious power. And with it, I will erase you. Haku's lips thinned. So you may believe. Haku ran once more, but this time, he observed more than he attacked. And now he saw, Satsuki was watching him. She was running, diving, dodging, carefully, avoiding her friend's corpse, but more than anything, she was watching him. She was watching his every step, and she was calculating. This instilled a great sense of fear into him. Is she identifying how I fight? What exactly does she plan to do? Haku truly had no idea, until it happened. There came a single, gross miscalculation, a situation he had noticed due to the subtlety with which she set it up. He had allowed her to stray too far from him, too far indeed. Minutely, with an expertly executed maneuver, Satsuki had become far too near to one of the mirrors. Haku had noticed, and dived across, to which Satsuki sent a horridly forceful foot into his stomach at close range, sending him smashing into the mirror behind him. Haku winced, sitting up. Blood gathered in his mouth, spilling down his chin. Futile, Haku said, and so it was. He melded back into the mirror quickly, with Satsuki within the dome all the same. Even as everything seemed fine, even though the setback was minor, and he was quickly melding back into his ice mirrors, Haku felt a great, unerring sense of unease as Satsuki smirked. The turn of her lips was not a pleasant one. She ran. It took every ounce of Haku's effort to try and catch her, and he did not. Although Zabuza had told Haku, once or twice, of the sheer prestige of an Uchiha, it meant very little to him. Even as he had observed Kakashi, it had not seemed so superior. But now, Haku understood, the Sharingan, its precise eyesight and copying, were all efficiency. A wonderful, and fantastically useful efficiency. She was not faster than Haku, oh no, but she was efficient. There was no mistake in what she did, because there was no mistake in what she expected to come. After 10 minutes of horribly tense evasion and attack, Haku's chakra reached its limit. The mirrors collapsed. The weapon master's shop smelled strongly of sawdust and metal, and a bespectacled man sat at the desk with a welding mask that sat oddly over his glasses. Satsuki frowned. Her mother was chatting animatedly with the man, but Satsuki could only find the situation immensely uncomfortable. She didn't like it here, and she made that obvious to her mother by tugging on the material on the elbow of her cardigan. Mother, she said, quietly. Mother, are we done? The week previous, Satsuki had been dragged to this shop, and forced to stretch her hands into awkward and strange positions whilst a man with a measuring tape wiggled his way around her hand. It had been unpleasant, and she was hoping something similar wouldn't happen, but the situation was risky. She needed to leave. Satsuki considered spontaneously bursting into tears, but although Mikoto was gentle, she had her doubts that her mother would excuse her for something so stupid. Satsuki, behave. The man has prepared something especially for you. Oh, Satsuki thought, regarding at the slightly tipsy-looking man. Oh no, the man nodded at her, and stood up, disappearing into the back of the shop. Satsuki's anticipation built for a moment, until he came out with a large wooden box, sealed with golden clasps. It was much cleaner than her current environment, and he set it down on his desk, turning it to Satsuki with a gentle smile. Go on, her mother urged kindly with a hand on her shoulder. Open it. Satsuki undid the clasps awkwardly, and opened the box slowly. When she saw the contents, she couldn't help but gasp. There lay 2 fans, carefully overlaying one another in a bed of soft, burgundy velvet. They were black, emblazoned with the Uchiha symbol, with untainted metal spokes of a clear, reflective silver. She picked them up tentatively, and the carefully lacquered wooden outer cover settled into Satsuki's palm perfectly. Satsuki gaped, and at her mother's expectant look, she began to clasp the fan, splaying it out again with a deliberate motion. She had never felt something so natural to her. As an Uchiha kunoichi, she said, Tessenjutsu is our greatest strength, passed from generation to generation. After seeing you playing with my own Tessen fans, I decided it was time that I commissioned your own. Even after her mother was long gone, Satsuki trained with Tessen fans. They were the pivotal point of the gliding edge style. They became her pride, and so, not even for her Academy Bell test, nor her first C rank mission, had she brought them? They were a gift to her. Her outlook on this soon changed. In Haku's stupor, Satsuki took the opportunity to reach down and root for 2 adequately sized shards of ice from the shattered mirrors. No such shards came, but awkwardly shaped and somewhat disproportionate ones did. Satsuki knew she was pushing her boundaries of skill by using a non-collapsible substitute for fans, let alone ones that weren't sizably comparable to her regular fans of choice. Haku was breathing heavily behind his mask as he regained his senses, vision wavering as he attempted to steady himself. Satsuki knew there was no chance she could pull out any more ninjutsu. The 2 of them settled into a careful stance, and there was an unspoken decision. Taijutsu. Gliding edge, Satsuki said. She never broke her gaze, and her body contorted into a delicately balanced pose, with the shards splaying out from her palms. First stance. Those shards, she's incorporated them into her taijutsu style perfectly, as though she is substituting for a pair of fans. Tessenjutsu, Haku said, and Satsuki's eyes narrowed. When handled carefully, an Uchiwa has the power to both rekindle a flame, and to smother it, Satsuki said, her voice even. Satsuki held the 2 shards carefully, the 2 makeshift weapons grazing the thin flesh of her wrists. She smirked. So allow me to show you the true power, Satsuki said, of an Uchiha kunoichi. The style of the gliding edge was a difficult one, that was trained into the Uchiha women from an early age. The grace it required became obvious in every mannerism of an Uchiha woman. The ability to use momentum to expend less energy, careful, graceful, and precise. The key was to allow the fans to become an extension of that elegance, and Satsuki wished more than anything at that moment that she had brought those fans. That had been a mistake, and she was paying for it. Satsuki had no more room for mistakes, and she ran forward. Haku held longer, thicker senbon in either hand, parrying the deadly edge of an ice shard as Satsuki brought it around in a perfect curve. The momentum of the spin swung Satsuki's balance to the side, and she crouched, bringing her arms around in a quick spin to hack at Haku's legs. Haku moved out of the way quickly, the sharp edge nicking the cotton of his clothing. Satsuki quickly launched herself up, running forward with the 2 shards poised in front of her, and her movement was too quick for Haku to respond to as he staggered on his feet from the quick dodge of Satsuki's low swipe before Haku plunged the senbon into the shards, Satsuki pressing the 2 pieces closer to each side of his jaw, until Haku crowbarred the 2 shards into the air and out of Satsuki's grip. The success was tainted with the dry heaving that accompanied Satsuki's leg as the girl used his gut as leverage to flip over backwards and away from him. Satsuki reached for 2 kunao, and in one swift movement, launched them at Haku. Haku jumped, but the movement wasn't sufficient. They implanted themselves deeply into his left shin. He faltered. Haku reached for his senbon, jumping backwards and launching a barrage at them at Satsuki. She did not even move, using the flat edge of the shards to negate every single one. Haku bit his lip. She's fast, just as fast as me, without those ice mirrors, but it's obvious that she can track my movements faster than she can dodge them, and with my legs damaged like this, there's no way I can keep up with that. I have to do something. Haku winced, picking the kunao out of his leg and jumping backwards. He was running the risk of bleeding out, and Satsuki noticed. Do you plan on dying here? I wouldn't plan for it, Haku said, but I will do whatever I have to as a tool. Satsuki scoffed, settling into a twisted pose. A tool, she sneered. What a sad existence. Living as an instrument of someone else's desires. Haku's legs were dripping with blood, but he jumped back, sending a flurry of senbon Satsuki's direction as he did. Are you truly that different? Shinobi are tools of a village. I am the tool of a man. You, especially, should know. What is he trying to say? Satsuki thought, angering quickly. I am the tool of my own intentions, Satsuki hissed, lunging for Haku, and the red of her eyes struck fear into his heart. Those eyes, is she even seeing me? Satsuki was too fast, and Haku saw the recognition of his strike before it came, even though she was not fast enough to evade it. As his senbon threatened to pierce through another shard, Satsuki brought the ice shard down to scrape along Haku's arm. Haku plunged the senbon into the girl's shoulder, and her arm loosened and dropped one shard. The victory was short-lived, as Satsuki unleashed a full frontal assault. Haku was mesmerized slightly by the style. It was brute force disguised as beauty. You'd fall in love with it before you realized you were dead. Satsuki parried Haku's senbon with her forearm pressing against Haku's, swiping the shard in her other hand across Haku's stomach. The boy leaned backwards and jarred himself out of the girl's grip, attempting to kick Satsuki's jaw as he flipped over backwards. The move backfired as Satsuki dodged easily, bringing the shard around with a momentous force that cut a significant amount of Haku's hair and left a gash in his mask. The hair hadn't had time to fall to the ground when Satsuki stood on her hands and brought her legs around to collide with the side of Haku's head. The hit launched Haku a few meters, his blood leaving a smudged trail. Through a hazy double vision, Haku began to panic at Satsuki's approaching form. At this rate, Satsuki will escape, and Zabuza-sama will. Haku stood up, staggering on his feet, and he knew that Satsuki could have killed him in that instant. Whether she did not in order to prolong his suffering, or out of pity, he would never know. For Zabuza-sama, for the sake of his dreams. I cannot die here. TCH. Haku looked at the young girl. Her expression was contorted with fury. Don't expect to see tomorrow, Satsuki said, when Naruto won't. Haku smiled beneath his mask. True strength comes about for those we care about. Your will to avenge, and my will to protect, he said, clasping senbon between each finger, are both manifestations of love. Satsuki scowled, and poised her leg at a 180-degree angle. Gliding edge, she said. Second stance. And with a deafening bang, Satsuki's foot hit the floor. A chakra trick, clever. She amplified the noise. He was awakened from his stunned stupor by an elbow to the kidney and the heel of Satsuki's foot being slammed into the back of his knee. She quickly pushed down on his shoulder, sending him to the floor before her knee was rammed into the small of his back. Haku spat blood. Zabuza-sama. Naruto is finally smiling, Satsuki said, and her mouth was twisting into a smile. Naruto is finally smiling. Her laugh shook him to his core. How many times had Haku seen this? The insane delusions of the grieving? Not like his corpse. Naruto is finally laughing again. Satsuki howled, laughing hysterically. She doubled over, eyes filling with tears of hysteria. Laughing, laughing, laughing. Haku took this opportunity to stumble away from the girl, her laughs echoing far in the mist. Satsuki's laughs began to wash away into mild chuckles, and she looked up, Sharinon spinning wildly and grinning. Your death is so close I can taste it, she breathed, and it is wonderful. And then Satsuki's mouth was at his ear, plunging a shard of ice towards the base of his back. Her whisper was warm in his ear. Die. With an abrupt movement, Haku felt several things. She felt the interference of Zabuza at her back, as he grabbed the Satsuki's slender wrist and swung her, with impressive force, elsewhere. Then came the interception of Kakashi, quickly engaging with Zabuza, and Haku turned around to see the conflict in his eyes. This had been with unclear reason until a second later. Zabuza had made a decision. Satsuki had forcefully kicked, with every ounce of her strength, the pile of ice shards towards Haku, and had fully expected the boy to die. Of all variations Satsuki had expected, she had not accounted for the possibility of Zabuza, the demon of the mist, jumping in front of the mass of shards. Silence reigned, and then, after a moment, with nothing but a gurgle, Zabuza collapsed. Zabuza. The whisper was empty-sounding, and Satsuki had not heard Haku refer to his master without any kind of honorific. Zabuza, Haku repeated, crawling slowly towards the man. Zabuza. Zabuza. Haku, the man said, his voice weak. He sounded like he was going to say more, but nothing came. Zabuza, Haku said. You fool. Zabuza coughed. The sound made Satsuki cringe. You're a fool, Zabuza said. Working for a washed-out demon like me. I'm no fool. Zabuza. Zabuza-sama, we have to will break the deal. With Gato, I'll escape and heal you. Shut up, Haku. That's enough. Zabuza sounded tired, weary. Why? Haku said, choking with the thousands of things he was trying to push out at once. Why would you? I'm just a tool to you, Zabuza-sama. For a tool, why would you? Is that how you saw it? Zabuza said, voice straining. For a ninja, Haku, you were always so gullible. The bridge was quiet, and though opportunity certainly presented itself, Satsuki herself knew, and knew through the quiet, unchallenging posture of Kakashi, that to attack now was simply not right. You were too kind, Zabuza said. Too kind for killing. I'm sorry for that. I have a lifetime of apologies to make to you, Worst of all, letting your dreams rely on a man like me. I made that choice, Zabuza-sama, Haku whispered. The good in this world comes through the young. The brutal practices of that Mizukage, making young children kill one another, even as I killed anyone and everyone for money, in my mind was that belief. It doesn't atone for my sins, but I'm sorry for this, Haku, Zabuza said, eyes shutting. For all of the things I made you do. Each time, I told you to kill your heart, but you were just too gentle for that. One final thing. Yes. Take that stupid mask off, there is no shame in your tears. Zabuza passed away. Zabuza, Haku whispered. Zabuza. With a choked cry, Haku lay his head on Zabuza's chest and sobbed. The act was pitiful, tears that fell silently, the tears of a boy without purpose. Satsuki had willed herself not to look away, but there came a point. What did you? Haku said, the words not quiet but a whisper all the same. What did you expect me to do with this worthless life of mine? Zabuza-sama. Haku clasped the sides of his head, stumbling to his feet with an uncertainty of balance. Kakashi watched with bated breath, poised to strike. The boy had his head in his hands, fingers pressed tightly to his flesh with tufts of hair clenched in between. His quivering, unstable rage quieted, and Haku slowly pulled away his mask, and dropped it to the floor. Satsuki froze. It was you, she said. You? In the woods. Haku was silent. Satsuki felt rage bubbling inside of her, and she clenched her fists. If you have dreams of protecting those you love, how could you possibly have done this? If you understand that, then. My dreams, Haku said, were Zabuza's dreams. My hopes were Zabuza's hopes. I lived for the purpose of serving him, and without him, living for the purpose of serving someone else's desires, Satsuki said, boiling with anger, is ridiculous. Is that not what you have done? Satsuki stopped. Is that not what you have done? Haku said, by living your life in hatred, as your brother asked? By living your life in a search for power? Are you not serving the desires of someone else, as a tool? And even then, your existence is reliant on vengeance. Reliant on an empty justice. Empty justice, Satsuki said, her voice low. Empty justice? You killed Naruto? He did nothing but dream of being acknowledged. He was naive and stupid and he pissed me off, but you took away his hopes and dreams? Don't call this an empty justice. Haku was quiet for a moment, and then he closed his eyes, head tilted towards the sky as though he were searching for stars behind his eyelids. But what would Naruto say? Would he thank you? And then, Satsuki had no more words for Haku. You told me in the woods that day, Haku said, that you had no one worthy of protecting. That you didn't need anyone like that bonds like that would only hold you back. And yet, it seems as though, had it not been for Naruto's intervention, you would be dead. Satsuki didn't say anything. You useless bastards. The ninja flicked their attention to the end of the bridge, and outstepped, with a platoon of mercenaries at his back, a short man, with thick black glasses, and a disgusting grin. With all the things I'd heard about you too, I thought you could polish off a decrepit old man, he snorted, but that's not the case, Kakashi narrowed his eyes. Gato. And you two were expensive, you know, Gato said, stepping forward with a reliance on his cane. Figured I'd finish both of off to replenish my funds, you know what I'm saying? But looks like half the job is done. Haku stood from his master's body, and turned to Gato. I have one final gift to you, ninja of Konoha, on one condition. His voice was as cold as his ice. What? Satsuki whispered, and her heart went cold as Haku turned his face to her and opened his eyes. His eyes were formed of an entire, unseeing, illustrious ice, with not iris nor pupil to speak of, pure, untainted ice. In the sockets of Haku's skull forge your own path, he said. And find dreams. A cackle resounded from Gato's mouth, and Satsuki scowled. Dreams? Pretty words for a mercenary, Gato said, talking between his snorts. I won't waste a second on a brat like you now that demon is dead. Harmless, isn't he? The jibes were followed by the stout man poking at Zabuza's eyelids with his walking stick, pushing aside the skin to expose the unseeing eyes behind. Satsuki's face tightened with anger, and she stepped forward purposefully, but was stopped by the silent, motionless stance of Haku. My final favor to you all, Haku said, stepping forward with a posture that spoke volumes more than his monotone voice, is to rid this world of this wretched man. Satsuki, without thinking, stepped back, and Gato stumbled backwards. What are you saying, brat? Those eyes of yours get him? Demon. Child. Gato stumbled through his crowd of henchmen, towards the half-constructed edge of the bridge. Satsuki-san, Sakura said. The ocean is. And so, Satsuki looked. The ocean itself, from the bridge to the radius surrounding it, was freezing, a spiderweb-like network of ice forming from the piers beneath the bridge outwards, the landscape coating in a reflective gray. The falling snow thickened. There was an affirmative cry amongst the mercenary ranks, their weapons lifting to the sky, and they began forward. Satsuki felt the shaking of the bridge as there was a sharp, cutting noise and the scraping of crumbling brick. In the most beautifully disgusting show of murder Satsuki would ever bear witness to, a twisted spire of ice pierced through the bridge and through Gato, launching through his corpse and spraying body parts and blood over the bridge. His glasses, and his finger, landed in front of Sakura, staining her ankle with a splash of red. She threw up. The mercenaries stilled, their faces dripping with blood, before attempting to run. Satsuki's hands shook first, and then she found herself on her knees, dry heaving, eyes straining as she vomited. Haku fell down, and the bridge was quiet. Satsuki. The noise was barely audible, and wiping her mouth, Satsuki responded. The fear permeated her voice. Yes. Zabuza-sama, Haku croaked, please. Let me see him. Her nodding was slow and hesitant, and Satsuki lifted Haku and set him beside Zabuza's corpse. He was light. The snowfall was slow and gentle as Haku turned to Zabuza's peaceful form, with outstretched, icy fingers. Dreaming, do you dream, even in death, Zabuza-sama? And of what? Satsuki headed to Naruto with a body full of holes, and a heart full of lead. The mist had cleared, and where Naruto lay, not snow nor blood had tread. The snowfall had stopped short of him, as had the bloodshed. He lay in a bed of ice. Satsuki walked by his side, and her knees trembled as she knelt down beside him. Satsuki did not cry. Do not cry. He led his life as an admirable shinobi, and he died as one. Fugaku's voice was stern, and Satsuki scrubbed at her tears with the sleeve of her black dress, swallowing a hiccup and trying to blink back tears. Itaka's presence was empty and unmoving beside her. Satsuki had had half a mind to be indignant at how he ignored her every word, until she had seen the first and only tear fall. The day was uncomfortable, storm clouds had lingered overhead continuously, threatening rain and never spilling. When the end of the day had come, and Shisui had been firmly under dirt, Mikoto had took her daughter aside. It's okay to cry, she said. Satsuki did not cry. Satsuki felt her gut twist when she looked at Naruto. He had not moved an inch. The hope that he would have was terribly, and illogically, pathetic. Liar, she said. Satsuki leaned forward, burying her head in the folds of his orange jacket. It was so cold, and the scent of everything that was Naruto had been stained by blood and the icy air. You stupid liar. And for a brief moment, she wanted to cry. She wanted tears to come. She wanted to sob, just to prove to herself, to Naruto's dead and empty corpse, that she cared, because only now did she see that she had. And it was just so wrong when she saw those things she had said to Haku, that she had said there was no one worth protecting, because Naruto had cared enough to die for her. He'd had dreams, and Satsuki had always thought them stupid, irrational, and brash, just like she had Naruto, but somewhere along the way had came that spark of I swear by the cut on this hand that I won't hold anyone back, and that I won't give up. And I never go back on my word. Belief. She had believed in Naruto, and yet, the tears would not come. The corpse beneath her groaned. Erg. Satsuki started, launching back off of Naruto with wide eyes. To her complete and utter amazement my back, Uzumaki Naruto ow, was rising from the dead. Satsuki's words caught in her throat as Naruto's bright blue eyes met hers. He blinked, before grinning widely. His laughter resounded across the whole bridge. Haha, I fooled you, huh? Naruto said, laughing, and sticking his tongue out at Satsuki. It's what you get for doubting the word of Uzumaki Naruto. Satsuki was speechless. Satsuki whispered, the words refusing to come. Satsuki. Satsuki could only describe the sensation as being dropped from a cliff, only to find heaven below. You idiot, she said, words catching in her throat. Trying to play off something like that? And And I still hate you. As she looked at Naruto's smile and open, gloriously seeing blue eyes, Satsuki choked, let out a sob, and began to cry. And so came the tale of the great Naruto Bridge. The bridge that brought the land of waves to prosperity was both strong and reliable, just like the ninja who had fought valiantly for it, who had brought the people of that country to believe in the power of unity. And so, it was named after that knucklehead ninja. A fair distance across the bridge, there comes a spot that sends travelers and tradesmen into confusion. No matter what the weather, there is a stretch on this bridge that is thick with mist, and constant, unceasing snowfall. The tale speaks of a specter of ice and a specter of mist, who protect the bridge and those who pass by upon it, by misleading those with evil intentions and casting them overboard and allowing a clear path to those with only good in mind. The unspoken tale speaks of two mercenaries, who died together with nothing more than a young ninja to carry away the tale of their lives and dreams. The less romantic part of that tale speaks of their pathetic deaths, of how a boy pledged himself to a selfish man, but the better part of that tale speaks of how their tales lived on. Indeed, their tales lived on, carving the strange, uncertain, and certainly wrong future. Because those tales, whilst wonderful, and heart-wrenchingly inspirational, were supposed to ascertain the future of a brash young boy, and yet these words had only reached the ears of a cold young girl. But that was how it went, and so, the future went with it. Chapter 8. The first day, Satsuki is anxious. You're late. Ma. Well, I was. Oh, where's Naruto? I don't know. He never turned up. Well, he must be sick. Let's continue. The second day, Sakura is anxious. You're late. Ma. Well, I was. What? Is he sick again? I guess. I'd expect him to be exhausted after that trip. It's best if we check up on him, but today, we've been summoned. The third day, Kakashi is anxious. You're late. Again. Yeah. I guess he must be really sick. Can we go check on him, Kakashi-sensei? That'd be best. Knock. Knock. Naruto. Kakashi said. There were a couple of light footsteps, and the jiggling of a faulty lock, before the door opened. Hi, Naruto said. His voice was rough. He looked awful. It wasn't in a sickly fashion, Satsuki noted. His skin was the same shade of light brown, and his nails were white and healthy looking. But he looked generally unkempt, with dark bags under his eyes and a distant look in his eyes. There was a stirring of worry in her chest. Where've you been the past 2 days? Sakura said, and Satsuki found herself surprised at the gentleness in her voice. Naruto brought a hand up to scratch the side of his head. He looked down. I haven't been feeling too great, he said, a laugh in his voice. Satsuki felt as though it was an obligation. Haven't you gone to the hospital? Sakura asked. Naruto was quiet for a moment, and he didn't look any of them in the eye. One hand pulled at the material on the side of his pants. It's not like that, he said, after a moment's thought. If you're feeling sick, you should go to the hospital, Sakura said, folding her arms. Staying at home won't make you better. Have you been sleeping? Satsuki yearned to say something. Before their eyes, Naruto's expression and posture reformed itself. He laughed, scratching the back of his head. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Even as Naruto gave them a big smile, and Sakura tried to smile reassuringly back, Satsuki couldn't help but feel a heavy weight settle in the pit of her stomach as they left. After they had been assigned a simple D rank, Kakashi apologized and excused himself for the day. Satsuki's inkling of worry became a dark, permanent blotch on her psyche. What is it, Kakashi? Kakashi tucked his book into his pocket. Hokage-sama, I am beginning to think that the A-rank mission has taken its toll on Naruto. The third paused in his calligraphic writings, eyeing Kakashi suspiciously below the tip of his hat. What do you mean? Naruto took 2 days leave. I thought he may been ill, or exhausted, but upon visiting him, Kakashi said, expression serious, well, Hokage-sama, I'm sure you read the mission report. I think it was a bit severe. After all, the majority of ninja are eased into higher level missions. There was a moment of quiet. I see, the Hokage said, a plume of smoke leaking from his lips. He stood. The psychiatric assessment after that incident with his teacher was to be expected. What with that child's resilience? Kakashi said nothing. Sarutobi sighed. What would you recommend, Kakashi? As his sensei. The situation is delicate, he said. Personally, Sarutobi said, Don't you think it would be better if you saw to it? Perhaps Naruto does not say so much, but I believe you've left a lasting impression on him. Kakashi nodded, bowing respectfully. And if Naruto requires further days leave paid for, the third said. After all, it is hardly his fault that Team 7 got an A rank. Dismissed. Satsuki. Sakura. The two genin looked up, one curious and the other irritated. Let's go for barbecue. On me. Really? Kakashi turned over a piece of meat on the grill, and it spat viciously in response. Sensei. Sakura said. What's the deal? The deal. Satsuki raised an eyebrow. Why have we come out for barbecue? On you. Sakura finished, crossing her arms and looking suspiciously at Kakashi. Don't you like barbecue? Do you want ramen? Sakura and Satsuki both gave Kakashi a narrowing look. And the man shrugged. Talking over food is best. Is this about Naruto? Satsuki said. The sound of sizzling fat filled the silence. Perhaps, Kakashi said, and Sakura ate a small chunk of beef, and swallowed it with an anxious expression. He didn't seem like himself, she said. And Naruto wouldn't miss a mission, even if he was sick. Kakashi shoveled 3 pieces of beef onto the grill, and Satsuki selected one tentatively. Being a shinobi has a great mental toll on some people. It's a hard business. Satsuki stopped, and Sakura blinked. Sensei, is Naruto? Kakashi picked 2 perfectly cooked pieces on Satsuki and Sakura's plates. I'm not certain, Kakashi said, but it seems likely. Satsuki stared at a small fat bubble popping in a river of grease. Naruto, she said quietly. Naruto? Why Naruto? It seems more like a moderate case of PTSD, but don't jump to conclusions. Naruto might just have the flu, you know. Poking at the edge of her beef, the fat sloshed onto the plate in a tiny waterfall of gloopy oil. Satsuki's appetite dripped away with it. Satsuki's walk home to her apartment followed much of Naruto's, and she physically steered herself the other way. She reached her apartment without incident, stepping in and stripping off to get into the shower. The water was cold and welcome. When she got out, the apartment was just as she had left it. Clean. Everything where it should have been, the bookshelves perfect, the bed covers untouched, and Satsuki, half-dressed, made herself sweet tea. Satsuki sat on her bed for a moment more, expecting to hear an obnoxious idiot banging her door down with Hokage's orders. Her heart sank when nothing came, and every second was more reluctant than the last as she urged herself to get up. Maybe he'll come now. Maybe he'll come now. Maybe he'll come now. It took an immense force to stand herself up, and Satsuki walked clumsily, hot tea spilling over her fingers, to the balcony. Crisp, wilted leaves littered the table outside. Her plant was dying. Satsuki cleared up the leaves, crushing them, tucking them beneath the soil, and then she cut up the old soft apples that she never would have eaten anyway, tucking them in the dryness of the soil, sprinkling the plant with water that caught in its leaves. She set the table further out, the leaves barely catching the evening sun. When Satsuki went back in, she sat herself at her empty table with paper and ink and attempted to write a letter. She tried once, twice, 3 times before giving up. When Naruto managed to stop staring at the ceiling, he sat himself at his dusty table with paper and pen and attempted to write a letter. He tried, once, twice, 10 times before giving up. Naruto. The door opened awkwardly, and Naruto smiled brightly. Sakura noted that he looked a little worse, and his smile looked painful. Sakura-chan. Hi, she said. Can I come in? Naruto's feet shuffled awkwardly on the wooden floor, and he allowed the door to gape. Sakura stepped in. The apartment was messy, and Sakura navigated her way through strewn clothing and ramen pots to the dusty kitchen table with a wrinkled nose. She pulled the chair out, sitting down, and she noted that as dead as Naruto and his apartment looked, his various plants were very much alive. Sakura coughed awkwardly as Naruto sat down beside her, and she tested the surface of a leaf with her fingers. I didn't think you were the kind to keep plants, when I met you, she said, tracing the layer of waxy cuticle on the leaf. Naruto laughed, rubbing the back of his head, but didn't say anything. The apartment felt empty without the echoes of Naruto's obnoxious opinion, but Sakura didn't prod him any further. But, she said, when I look at you now, I guess you're that kinda guy. Yeah, he said. Satsuki didn't think so either. Really? Yeah, when I told her how to take care of them, she looked confused. But I love plants, he said. Huh, Sakura said, letting the leaf slip from her grip and the stem settle back into its vertical stasis. It's funny, you and Satsuki. What is? Sakura looked at a tiny, unopened bud. I guess, she said, when did you two become friends? Friends. Naruto said. His voice had a tone that made Sakura want to wake him up from this lethargic sleepwalking that he was passing off as sickness. You and Satsuki are friends, she said. I dunno. I look at you, and you two are always at each other's throats, but friends, Naruto said again. If me and Satsuki are friends, then Sakura-chan. Sakura pouted, folding her arms, but a smile was testing at the edges of her lips. Maybe we're friends, too. Naruto was quiet for a moment. Really? Sakura broke away from her reluctance and smiled brightly at Naruto. Yeah, we're friends, right? Being on a team has made you a little less annoying, and the way Naruto hung on her every word, with eyes that were so blue and childish, made her heart beat faster. I dunno, she said, folding her arms and casting her head towards the window to hide the faint color of a blush. Maybe, when we fought Zabuza, and you and Satsuki made that plan. I guess you were kind of. The blush intensified slightly, and Sakura coughed. I guess you were kind of cool, she said. Naruto's expression lit up, and his smile made Sakura feel warm from the pits of her chest to her cheekbones. Does that mean we can go on a date? No. Stop getting the wrong idea, idiot. And besides, I've eaten. But Sakura-chan Satsuki walked up the steps with a heavy bag. It smelled strongly of salt and miso. She pictured Naruto's apartment in her head as she reached the right floor, walking along and counting the numbers carefully. His door was worn, painted an off shade of green. She reached to knock. Come on, Sakura-chan. No, I don't care if I have to sew the cover myself. That couch is ugly. It matches my door. Your door is ugly too. Oi. Satsuki heard the smile in Naruto's voice. She rapped on the door with strength, and it opened stiffly to reveal Naruto smiling brightly. Satsuki, that smell, he said, grinning and stepping forward. Ramen. Satsuki held the bag out to Naruto, and the boy inhaled deeply, grinning widely, before he opened the door behind him with his foot. Are you gonna come in too? Sakura's here. No. But he protested, eyebrows knotted. Satsuki looked away. I have somewhere to be, she said. Satsuki put her hands in her pockets, turned around, and walked straight back the way she came. Naruto blinked. Bye, Satsuki-san. Sakura called after her, rushing to the door to see Satsuki's retreating back. Satsuki said nothing, but once Naruto's door had clicked shut and she had began descending the stairs, she realized she was clenching her fists. Geez, something was up with her. I'm sure she's just worried about you, Sakura said. She brought you ramen, after all. Naruto drew up a chair, placing the bag on the table and grabbing some chopsticks. Well, he said, pouting sullenly, she could have just stayed. As he unwrapped the parcel, he realized there were 2 bowls. She got me 2. One was filled with miso ramen, and the other was similar. Fresh tomato was cut all throughout the dish. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Well, I don't even like tomatoes. Do you want that one, Sakura-chan? Sakura looked at the tomatoes, sitting atop the noodles and resting against the side of the bowl. Her heart sank. No, she said, thinking of Satsuki's strange expression as she had handed Naruto the noodles. I'll pass. Naruto, good to see you. Yeah. Kakashi-sensei. Chapter 5a/n, a little late, but not too much. This chapter